There is no doubt that Star Citizen Alpha 3.18 is going to revolutionize how players are trading in the game, and not just how they are going to buy and sell commodities, but also how they are going to acquire and handle them. Thanks to the upcoming persistent integer streaming technology, cargo boxes are going to become physicalized game entities, just like a ship, a player, or a delivery box have been for years at this point. And this change means that a cargo container's fate will no longer be linked to the fate of the ship it would have been placed into. Instead, it will be linked to how the players themselves would handle them. Ideally, a cargo container would spawn at a dedicated cargo depot, either at a station or a landing zone or an outpost here in this case, and then it will be loaded into a ship, then transported to a destination of the pilot's choosing before being unloaded and despawned after being sold. However, with patch Alpha 3.18, it will probably not always be the case, because if that cargo ship gets destroyed, the containers will persist, meaning that they will be up for grabbing either by the person or crew who would have blown up that ship, the captain of that ship who would have returned to recuperate their cargo, or a lucky scavenger who would have found that wreck and its containers by chance. What all of this highlights is that a cargo ship's destruction will create looting opportunities for players, and that therefore it will be more tempting for players to just destroy a cargo ship and take its cargo than make an effort to board it in a more civilized way. And this raises the following question. Is this the type of gameplay that we want for Star Citizen? Is this the type of piracy that we have envisioned? Shouldn't it be instead a way for raiders and transporters to find a mutually beneficial agreement instead of purely encouraging the ship's destruction? Of course, a captain could always try to negotiate with pirates, but with such a system that gives little to no drawbacks to a ship destruction, why would a pirate even bother with parley when they can just take what they want? Combined with the fact that in the future ships will be traveling in quantum mode with their shields off, and you clearly have a recipe for a disaster for cargo holders who will have had their habits of operating large vessels alone for almost 5 years now. I, for one, believe that the developers at Cloud Imperial Games are very aware of that. This is why originally they came up with the idea of only leaving 40 to 50% of the cargo intact on average per ship destruction, and made it clear that giving the possibility to recuperate the rest in the wreck was actually Chris Roberts' idea. I believe that they know that this decision is not going to be popular amongst a certain part of the community, but I believe that they might have decided to go for it for a couple of possible reasons. The first one is obvious. It's Chris Roberts' idea, so you've got to do what the boss says. And then, just based on fan feedback, which is what I believe is going to happen, they are going to then adjust this decision here, or at least this game design. Next, I believe that they might have decided to choose this design because of tasting purposes. After all, persistent entity streaming is coming, and with its first iteration, Cloud Imperial Games are going to want to acquire data and see how the destruction of ships laden with cargo will affect server performance, and if all of the cargo entities plus the wrecks of the ships do persist indeed. But that, I believe, is only part of the answer. The only reason, in my opinion, is because the developers are looking for ways to create player-driven events made and triggered by the players, and turning cargo ships into flying piñatas is precisely going to do that. It will encourage players to group up to mount raid operations, it will encourage players to organize cargo convoys with escorts and crews, and it will encourage players to organize recovery operations to try to recuperate as much of the cargo as possible. Then the other alternative would be shipboarding, either via an assault or via negotiations. And despite the fact that it was announced that ships would be disabled 70% of the time versus a destruction ratio of 30%, I still don't think that pirates will often go for this solution, and that's because of the size difference of the ships pirates will use versus the ships cargo holders usually use. Typically, a pirate would need a fast ship capable of catching up cargo holders that would try to outrun them, so a large ship here is out of the equation unless we're talking about a large group with a few crew and a large amount of fighter escorts. But from what we can see right now, when people play as a group, they usually form up groups of 3 to 5 people on average, so I could imagine here a flotilla made of a mantis for quantum interdiction, and a bunch of cutlasses, or a cutlass and something larger like a Mercury Star Runner, or even better, a constellation that would be used to deliver a barrage of missiles. With those 3 ships, we're looking here at a total of 152 SCU of cargo capacity, which, if you do your math, equals to a quarter of the cargo capacity of a Caterpillar, or a third of the cargo capacity of a Carrack. That would therefore still be way below the average of 45% of survivability of a ship's cargo, and therefore it would be less risky to completely blow up a ship than disabling that ship, board that ship, and then take the risk of being killed in a gunfight. Now, Cloud Imperial Games did mention the concept of soft destruction here for that 70% ratio, confirming that the ship's health would be lowered to 0%, but that the crew would still survive despite the ship being out of order. Would that mean that once a ship is in this stage, it would no longer be destructible? I think that it would be unfortunate. I think that instead pirates should have that choice of going for a final blow or decide to blow up a ship even if they don't have to. As I mentioned before, there would be scenarios in which it would make more sense to just blow up a ship rather than boarding it intact, but I also think that these might be some freighter captains perhaps who would rather die than seeing their precious hold being taken away in front of them or in front of their very eyes, especially since pressing the self-destruct button probably will not be an option once the ship is disabled, or as CIG now says, is in soft death mode. So there we have it, guys. How I see Star Citizen Alpha 3.18 is going to change the lives of those who make a living hauling cargo and those who make a living stealing it. But let me know in the comment section down below, guys. Are you a cargo hauler, or are you a pirate, or maybe you're a security officer? How is 3.18 going to change how you play the game? Well, if you answer the question and subscribe to the channel, you are in to win a Crusader Spirit E1 with LTI. Also, you can join our video sharing contest. This video is up for shares there in our contest on our Discord, and if you enter that video sharing contest, you can also get to win another Crusader Spirit E1. You can also support the channel by becoming a Patreon member or a YouTube member, which will give you automatic access. All you have to do is just simply enter your name. Alright, guys, well, that is all for this video. Nevertheless, I am still very excited about 3.18 and the cargo refactor, and you can be sure that I will be thoroughly testing it on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, I wanted to give a big shout out to all the people out there who support the channel, and these include, of course, Dr. Frobin, Geek Citizen, Captain Snake the Digit, and Zero Crusher, and Wolfpack Pug. It's been the Eradicator. I will see you guys later.